Thanks for tuning in to the Diaphragm Dynasty. I'm back with more R&B, R&B topic per se. Just thinking about the legacy and time or career of Aaliyah. Unfortunately, it was short lived. Rest in peace to Aaliyah. But just thinking about the narratives that have surround Aaliyah, and one of the things is what Aaliyah could have became. What could her career have bloomed to? Now, the early top conversation that people were having in the 2000s after her passing was would, or later on after she passed, maybe 10 years, 15 years or so, is would Beyonce still have been or ever made it to the level that she's made it to today if Aaliyah was still around? Now, I don't think I've never subscribed to that belief of Beyonce would have never made it to this level she made it to if Aaliyah was still around. Um, I think Beyonce would always have been Beyonce just because of the great teams that she had and the knowledge that she had, and just the management that she had with her. I think Beyonce would always been Beyonce. So I thought that was the wrong narrative for people to create or even think about. My thought pattern is that Aaliyah, the question is, where would have Aaliyah had ascended to? Regardless, not thinking about Beyonce or anything like that, but where would Aaliyah have made it to, just for the simple fact of her career, where would it would have went to? Because we know where her career was before her passing. She was this great, vocalist. She had the hits. She was becoming an actress. So where would she would have bloomed into? And I believe Aaliyah was trending to be in the same realm that or same fashion of what Rihanna is today. That's more of the comparison I think of more than Beyonce because they had the same type of ability. They didn't really dance as much, but they had the hits, they had the voice, they had the vocals. I believe Aaliyah was a better vocalist than Rihanna. So I think her upside was even greater than the Rihanna is today. Now, um, Rihanna is an actress, singer and an entrepreneur. Um, and I think Aaliyah would have became an entrepreneur if she would have got those opportunities past because she died at the age of 21, 22. Of course, she was still young in her career, but I think as the game evolved more, because there really wasn't a prototype like a Beyonce or Rihanna at the time, there was an entrepreneur as well. And then you start getting the Mariah Careys, and every artist now is an entrepreneur and a businessman or a business person as well. So when you get the evolution, I believe Aaliyah could definitely turn into a Rihanna type. She had the beauty, she had the team around her. Leah had similar to what Rihanna has, and I think she would have got to that level. And then I could see Aaliyah with a clothing line or a cosmetic line and a bunch of successful movies. And I think she would have been even more successful as an actress than Rihanna. Rihanna is mostly known for the animated movies that she does. She's done a couple of real life movies, but for the most part, I think Aaliyah would have been bigger in the actress world, just from her talent and her beauty would have carried her just into that world alone. And then she would have continued had the hits with Timbaland, and she would have been able to work with other producers growing up because she was primarily with Timbaland and of course R. Kelly early in her career on that first album. But I could have definitely seen Aaliyah hitting that billionaire status because she appeared to be very intelligent. Like I said, I talked about before her talent, and then we don't even have to talk about the beauty part that was already there. But I just think with the team around her, and then her uncle, his ability, Barry Hankerson, to manage her career and the intelligence that he had and the resources that he had, I think he would have put her in a great position to be a billionaire and to create a Rihanna or even a Beyonce like career for herself. And I'm not sure if Aaliyah, I think she would have always done music. So I don't think that she would have went on a hiatus like Rihanna did. Um, so that's the only difference I think, because I think Aaliyah would have always put out music and would have always came back to the music because she came from the era where it was about what you loved and you only got to the other stuff as a result just to create more revenue because we know music is not as lucrative right now. But I think Aaliyah still would have been dropping projects every 3, 4 years opposed to Rihanna been on its 10-year hiatus, I think Aaliyah would have still always gave us something. And then I think I can even imagine Aaliyah performing at the Super Bowl, which would have been iconic. One of the best performances we probably would ever saw, which unfortunately we didn't get a chance to see. But I think she would have had that opportunity later in her career, especially with Jay Z at the helm being a part of the creative control process. I believe Aaliyah would have definitely gave us one of those Prince, Michael Jackson type performances that we so deserved, but we never got. And I don't think Beyonce Sean would have dimmed Aaliyah's or Aaliyah's would have dimmed Beyonce's because, like I said, it's enough room in R&B for everyone. It's not like hip hop where hip hop, there's one top dog and everybody else is fighting for two. There's enough room for one in R&B because it's not they don't have that culture, that toxic culture that hip hop has. There's more love scene, and they don't really pit people against each other in R&B. I know they did it with the Brandy and Monica stuff back in the day, but for the most part, they don't really pit singers against each other like they do with the hip hop artists. And there's not beefs going around or perceived beefs or the narratives of beefs because R&B music sells a little bit better than hip hop, so they don't have to create that narrative to kind of get the sales up. So I always think that there is enough room in R&B for all the artists. So I don't think there were ever been any narrative of having to dim anybody's light when it comes to that Beyonce, Rihanna, Aaliyah discussion. So I never thought that was a fair narrative that people put out, and Jay Z addressed that before, talking about um, same thing with him and Biggie. People were saying if Biggie was around, Jay Z wouldn't be at the level he was, but I don't think that's true because they're two different artists, two different styles, and Jay Z's just an entrepreneur. He was more of a businessman than Biggie was, so he would have figured out something anyway. So I just thought it was an unfair narrative that people created. But in that pop world, R&B world, even other genres, it only existed really in hip hop where you have to pit people against each other. So I just always thought that was bad. But nevertheless, I do think Aaliyah would have been a great star, and she would have ventured off into other things and became a billionaire eventually. But tell me what your thoughts are about this Aaliyah conversation. Of course, RIP to Aaliyah. Um, and tell me what your thoughts are about this discussion. And until next time, I'll see you next time.